windshield
really
kind
found
of
them.
cut down, I really like that.
It's kinda nice. I'm getting more quilting done, that's for sure.
I'm really
That's
good
a big
at it, I
plus,
just
yeah.
really like sitting at home.
I do too.
Actually, where my solar
Got
mover,
my
my
calves,
furnace, and my
got my
central air went.
I finished 2 quilt tops over the weekend.
So I'm
You
really
sold
glad.
it.
Finished 2 quilt tops over the weekend.
Oh, did you do that?
Together.
I just had scraps ready to go and I just did them.
Oh my, that's good. I haven't got into my
Hopefully we won't
sewing
see any more of those
room
100-degree
yet for
rooms.
quite a while. I need to get back in there, cause I had one about there for my grandson Sean, but gotta get it finished so I can get it sent.
Ted did notify
to
me
get
that he wasn't
quilted.
gonna be able to
You-
be here.
Okay.
All right.
Floor does them.
Floor, yeah. She does an awesome job.
I like the
does.
idea
Yeah.
And
of
she's got some new
I look at the
designs
number of stops
fixed, so
and then,
it's-
but also
she's
the number of
expanded
warnings
what she can do because she got a
and
whole
then
new
the
set of
number of
new
citations.
designs.
It's almost a split,
And
so
so
for every
it's-
one
she
that
can
was
do
stopped,
different things.
somebody, another
Like I
one got a
wanted one that had
citation, you know,
bones and
43 warnings and
footprints, paw prints
49
on it, and so she
citations.
found
I mean,
one
that-
had- and she bought a whole program that was on.
I think there was one
So she's
time,
got some different ones
a
to
number of
play
years
with,
back,
so
they
she's having a good
assessed
time.
this as a
I know
traffic,
my cat when she went, Mom made
kind
me
of
a
a-
cat.
I like the children that play on our street corner up there, we got a lot of kids on that
And,
street.
Yeah.
She
I told
had
my wife, I
butterflies.
think I might get a
Oh.
red flag or an orange flag and put it on that sign.
Yeah.
Mom always loved
It draws
butterflies.
people's attention.
that'd be a good.
Yeah,
idea.
they're
Every time I see a butterfly.
Oh my God, and they're
Yeah, that's what
constantly
Mom has
back
in her
and
room
forth,
right
you know,
now.
there's 5 on that side of the
She's-
street.
Her room
about
is
6 or
decorated in
7 on the
butterflies,
other
and those
side.
butterflies
Then
that
you
are in
just
there
added
will come
another
to
one.
my
Yeah,
house.
we just had it, well, I don't know, be on the street for a few
something
years, but
The kids always said that.
Well,
That's a busy street.
Yeah.
that's a busy street, then my grandkids come,
And
so
it's,
there, you know, there's some afternoons, there's
something
probably
they call
15
it.
kids in a block.
It's
Yeah.
from the person that's gone,
Oh,
kind of a little, I'm thinking of you or something like that. They like that.
yeah,
At least they're
That's
on
pretty
that
cool.
street instead of the next one to the south. All the trucks go around that corner.
But
course,
there's
they go
always
around your house.
butterflies.
They come
Every
around,
kid,
they come
just that Mom said.
From the north by there, a lot of, especially the long ones, because they can't pull in.
But it's
They
pretty.
gotta go around the
Yes.
block so they can get a long shot at it. But I'll give the truckers credit, they go slow when they come by.
Okay, 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order and begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was trying to turn that on. Yours is off.
Okay, yeah, is that on? I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda. I don't think there's any additions. You think so?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Public input. Or, I'm sorry, I did that last time, didn't I? Minutes from the last council meeting are on pages 1 to 2. I should say 1 and 2. Thank you.
Move to approve the minutes?
Okay,
I'll second.
discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Now, public input. I'm just gonna, with regard to, I was notified by Councilman Jones that apparently I sent out a email with regard to soliciting credit card contributions for council members and staff. And I guess it's just my way of notifying. First of all, I didn't do it. But be real skeptical with regard to anything of that sort. And if you feel, follow up on it. And, if that would happen, probably my first inclination would be contacting that person, seeing if they did or didn't do that, and go forward with that. But that's the second. I know we had another text by one of the faculty members saying somebody out at Pier supposedly sent us that or similar email with regard to that. And so I just warn everyone to be cautious with regard to some of those things like that, because those, phishings or scams or whatever you wanna call them, they're out there, and they'll prey on you. So anyway, just be careful with that too. So, anything?
I was asked to speak on someone's behalf for public input.
Okay.
Dave Nelson was not able to make it to this meeting, but he wanted to re-bring up the lawn care issue of just that. Yes, some people are notified and they did do some work at properties around his place, but then that stalled, and now there's weeds that are 4 feet tall around vacant buildings and around fence lines along in that alley, and he was just wanting some action to be done about it.
Yeah, and rightfully so. And I guess I drove by there the other day, the one that in question with regard to what he had a concern with, and it was stalled. You know, nothing took place, and I thought, well, maybe something came up. You try to give the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes that benefit of the doubt comes back and bites you right square, you know.
I did not have enough time to talk with Ron to see if anything has been notified or not like that. He literally called me.
It was supposed to be through the cop.
Yep.
Until the,
Someone notifies you.
yep,
Yep.
The condition that it's in now is
yep.
the exact same way it was the day after you called me and said the day I'd started it, and so that's been a couple weeks.
But I took Tom and I went over and looked at it and said, well, hey, this is what's going on, and I'll be honest, I've been trying to get my oiling done, so I'm not worried about that. I mean, I got oiling to do.
Yep.
So, I mean, I realize I shouldn't say I'm not worried about it, but at the same time, I gotta get my oiling done, so.
Understand, it was just,
So,
a citizen brought it up to me again,
Yeah.
and they were requesting some action, so.
and then just to add to that, I mean, I read meters the other day, and it's all over where
Yeah.
nobody's weedy. It's all over. It's not one here and one there. It's all over.
Yep.
And I don't know what to do. I mean, we let, our weeds got a lot of hand in our own property. We took care of everything. And there are some we've done right now, cause everything's getting woody. You don't just mow it
No.
or weed it. You about have to literally cut it. But
And I think that's just
I don't know.
just a reminder we send out there that, you know, for property owners to, you know, be aware of it and try to, you know, try to maintain their lawns to the best of their ability. And if not, then of course, there's possibilities they'll be notified or even charged when it is cut, if nothing is taken care of. We really want to work with people and help them out. And I would even suggest if you're a neighbor to somebody and you know, sometime maybe see if you could be of some help to them. Maybe somebody is dealing with some issues that they just can't get around to, to it. So anyway, that's something. But we do want to keep everything upkeep the to expectations too. So anyway, anything else?
I just wanna say that being closer to the microphones really helps online. Because I listened online,
Yes,
and when you're closer to the microphone, I could hear, everybody.
everyone?
I know they told Patrick to move forward, but, and when you do, it really makes a difference online.
Okay, I appreciate that
So
too, yeah.
I mean, I just appreciate
Yeah.
you helping with that, because it makes it a lot easier to hear.
Not all, but I wish some of my former students would have been as willing to wanting to hear what I had to say. No, that's not true. Not true, is it, Terry? Okay. Okay, but I appreciate that too, and thank you for that too, Sue Ann. All right, the department head reports are there. And I know Patrick indicated that Chief Huss wasn't gonna be here, but a couple of, the first two things that stood out on me is the number of traffic warnings at 43 and the traffic citations at 49. you know, I think it's just more or less making, and I'm sure those, the citations were as such, I don't wanna speak on behalf of Chief Huss, but, warranted a warning versus that of a citation. I guess I just put, you know, the trust in the, officers, with regard to that, and I do, you know, wanna, commend that, you know, especially, you just don't know what you may encounter with regard to, some of those, stops, but I do appreciate, you know, knowing there's a nice balance there, so they're just not out there to write a ticket, but there are also going to remind everyone to obey the speed limit. With regard to that, and I know there's some discussion with regard to the kids in the neighborhood, but I was coming down the street on Highway 45 or 14, and a volleyball went out, or soccer ball went out on the road, and unfortunately, you know, somebody hit the volleyball and popped it, but there was a young person right behind that volleyball that, you know, could have also been hit. So it's just more or less be aware of those situations and you know, help prevent anything like that from happening. Anyway, any other things? Ron, you were talking about next on this is the street department. I noticed that oiling, you said you got, are you pretty much finished with the oiling you wanted to get done?
I need one full big day or 2 smaller days to finish oiling.
Okay, all right. Okay, and so that's on hand. Okay, water and sewer department. Terry, I see the airport was, you had Tom coming out with that. Everything, did anything, he was pretty happy with all that stuff? Okay, all right.
As long as we're talking airport, I've got a question. It was brought up to me, somebody would like to lease a hangar out there from a private individual that owns the hangar. And that person, maybe he just didn't wanna rent the hangar out, and that's why he said it, but he said he couldn't do that because it was against our policy,
I think it's against,
Federal,
federal.
FAA,
federal, okay.
it's like a sublease.
Sounds like it's set in stone.
Sounds like it to me, I guess. Well,
So,
I said I would check it out, so
so what's, building additional hangars is, Terry, is that done by the occupant?
Oh, there's a lot of cities that supply hangars for it to rent out.
Has
Build
that,
them and rent them out.
yeah, has that ever been a request with regard to the city
All the time,
all the time?
but you gotta have money to put them up too.
Yeah,
wonder if there's any way we could find some grant money for something like that.
see, that's what I was thinking, if we could talk to Helms.
Cause I know at
and-
least one person that would have a plane out there if they had a place to put it. New to town.
They can build a hangar,
Jim
they can
Schick
rent it
might
a
have
lot.
one that he would rent, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for an airplane.
Okay,
But we have people, like when pheasant hunters come, they don't want them sitting outside, they want them inside,
Right, well, this one would be a permanent, which is,
and that's what we need.
that's what we need. We need at least 10 to
Yep.
qualify for the federal money.
and we have area out there that we could place those hangars.
Yeah, we'll have a lot when they get that other taxiway in there.
Maybe that's something like, you know,
And that's in the plan, you know,
okay,
the taxiway.
maybe when we look at that, there might be some possibility of, you know, soliciting some grants or some funding to get an extra hangar, or some extra hangars out there. Okay? Very good. Anything else for Terry? Dustin, the electrical department, you said you got some meters in?
Yep, yeah, we're just kinda working through the bugs on the system. Today, we have a program that's gonna help speed up the process, waiting for them to put that through to the billing. see if it's just gonna switch everything all over. And if everything goes as planned, then they're really gonna start going in,
Okay,
so.
all right. And one thing I did wanna, when Ron was still here, and I don't know if he's gonna come back, I know the other night, when he had that gathering in the park, what was that, 2 weeks ago on a Sunday? Is that? Having taken my kids, my cross-country team down there to run, I was really concerned about the mosquitoes, you know, but I dare say that was not an issue that night, so I appreciate Ron and the street department, and anybody else who was part of that to make sure that the mosquitoes weren't an issue. In fact, I didn't, you know, get bit by any, but, I do wanna, you know, thank you, Ron, and all that help, you know, with regard to last Sunday, or the other week ago or two Sunday with that, gathering down in the park, because, with the mosquito issue and stuff, because I knew it wasn't a problem earlier in the week and stuff, so.
My, the guy I usually buy, chemical from, they're having a heck of a time with chemical, because from I-90 to just north of the North Dakota-South Dakota border, it's just crazy mosquito numbers, and they've been running out. In fact, today they just dropped some off. I don't know if I'll need it, but I didn't wanna run short.
Sure.
We get in 2 more days like we had yesterday, with all the water that's there, that makes lots of mosquitoes.
Well, not,
It'll dry them up and you won't have it, but
right, but it's not just the mosquitoes, they're having trouble killing the bugs in the sunflowers, because they took one of the better chemicals away. So they're taking some of the stuff that the mosquito people would be using,
yeah.
and they're having to spray multiple times because it's not as effective as the one they took away.
Terry, I was gonna ask you this too, because of the pool being shut down, was there anything of dire need other than a new pool that we might be looking at addressing, next spring when we fill that back up, or?
Oh, might need a boiler.
Is that the heater problem that's?
Yeah, a lot of times you don't know though, that stuff, you know, like the valves and stuff, they might work now, but next spring they might not work. Might seize up over the winter, but you don't know until the time comes.
Okay,
Boiler's getting pretty bad.
all right. Did you have major issues with it this year, other than just kind of band-aiding it together?
We always have to do that with them.
Okay,
But it's pretty rusty and the wires they get pretty hot sometimes and melt and you gotta splice them and things like that.
okay. And then Dustin, I see our new employee started on the 28th, so he's on now?
Yep, he's worked like 3 days now.
Okay.
All
right, good. I would have stopped in when I was up here earlier, but I had a little window that, you know, stop in the finance office. I did want to poke my head in. Did hear some conversation over there, so I'll try to make maybe time tomorrow and just, you know, if you're around to, you know, welcome them on board and stuff, so. Okay. All right. And the sales tax report, the finance office is there. Pretty good, didn't it? Sure. Okay. And then you indicated the budget worksheets have been distributed to the department heads. Okay. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on then.
On the budget deal, nobody's planning on leaving the country or anything in the next month, or anybody. Everybody's gonna be around, I guess, for meetings at the end of the month.
Should be.
Should be, if we go, it's gonna be the first weekend in October, the second one.
Go where?
I
Surprise.
I just wanna make sure you get ahead of it.
Yeah.
We don't talk much.
And on that, I know, I think Patrick sent me some information. I think there was a concern with regard to, when we do have a council meeting, we do have 3 of the council members, so we don't have a quorum. And then there was question whether or not the mayor could sit in that, because I am not a voting person. Everything that we get from the South Dakota Municipal League is the fact that I can be in attendance to those council meetings. I don't have to be, I may be in attendance
That's the way I would read it.
and stuff, so, so I just want to, kind of go on record with regard to that, because there's, I think anybody, we want to make sure that we're doing things the way they need to be done and should be done. And we do not want to even skew anything with regard to that too, so. Okay, moving on. Camden is here with SPN to, as far as look over the project. Welcome, Camden.
Thank you.
You betcha. I had a Camden run for me. He was pretty good. You ever think about, you ever run when, no?
In my previous life, I did. So mine
Okay,
seemed like a long time ago.
all right.
So, if it's okay with you folks, I just thought I'd give a kind of a review of where we've been with the utility project, how far we've come with everything, and just kind of go over that for a few minutes here. So, the history is kind of interesting on this project. Back in 2014, we started with the televising project, and we had some major trouble with that. Actually, city got in a lawsuit there, and Infratrack did most of the televising but didn't get it all done. And then as a result of some of the legal battles that we had there, the city got some extra funding and finished up the televising in 2015 with Johnson Jetline. And at the time, we found sanitary sewer that was in such bad shape that we were actually concerned that the road might collapse. And we were actually seriously talking about closing up some roads. It was that bad, like the pipe was gone. The sewage is just kind of flowing through the dirt. And so it needed some attention all around town. And so when Johnson Jetline finished that project the end of 2015, SPN also completed a report in December of 2015. In that report, there were 3 phases of work identified. I can show you the figure here. Can I borrow that? So 3 phases were identified, and then in addition to the phases, the last part of the water main is shown too. This map here shows the extent of all 3 phases to date. So this is the construction history, I guess, is what you'd call it. The part that's not on this map is what's not done yet, and identified in that original study was the rest of the water main to get finished, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. So there was an amended study for the storm sewer that was done in 2016 because the city, SPN and the city came together, and we just kind of all thought this is very expensive work. The storm sewer is generally kind of undersized all throughout town, and there was little pockets of problem areas all over, but we did this new study that kind of showed there's maybe like 3 focuses of areas that we could really hit hard and cut the cost down on the storm sewer a lot. So the storm sewer work is incorporated in those first 3 phases. Phase 1 was finally funding was sought for phase 1 and was given in April of 2016. That's the red part there. And Manning Excavating did the phase 1 project for $5.5 million. There was also a lift station project where both lift stations were upgraded for about $500,000. And then there was a detention pond that's way up to the north there in the middle of town. That was about $126,000. So the overall phase one was $6.2 million. Phase two is 5.4 million. And that's the blue part around generally the east part of town. And phase three just got completed this year in June, and that was $6.3 million. So, I can show you the next map. The rest of the work that's left here. Google Earth, how do I find that?
That's right here, that white box on the bottom.
White one? Oh, yeah. Just kinda show a broad view of it here. This is the work that's left on it's mainly water main work, all the blue lines. And then off to the right by the school, east of the school, there's some red lines there. That was actually part of phase three, but we were a little bit short on funding for phase three, so we cut that out of the project, just thinking we'd do that later. And then as part of phase three, there's some work on to abandon the wells and to put in a tank mixer in the water tower here in the ground storage tank. And then the ground storage tank has some maintenance items that need to get all fixed up. So where we are with phase four is DA&R funding was offered in May of 2022. And that funding was based on an estimate that was written up in November of 21. And since that time, construction costs have just really gone up since then. And so at the time of May 22, since the costs went up quite a bit and that city council at the time didn't really want to raise rates to the extent that was needed to get that funding to work, we decided to go in for a new funding application with rural development. And to this day, we don't quite have the answer on what that funding is. We're really close to getting that answer, but we just don't quite have it yet. It's a little bit strange that it's taken this long, but we had the new preliminary engineering report done in June 22. And we're still waiting on that funding.
Do you have any idea approximately?
I thought it'd be like last week, roughly. I called rural development this morning and didn't get an answer.
When did we start that funding, for RD?
June 22.
But before that, like, I think we first started it like in December, maybe of 21? Cause we wanted it before the January 1st.
So it was,
22.
the June deadline was what rural development arbitrarily set to have it before their interest rates went up.
That was the second time, I think.
The second
first
time.
was January of 22.
Okay.
So I think we missed 2 bumps in interest rates.
Okay. So the rural development funding would take the place of the DA&R loan. And we're hoping that you guys get a little bit of a grant package with that'll reduce the increase in user rates. Plus it'll also fund the extra construction costs that is due to the inflation of construction costs going up. So the issue is that the DA&R funding that was offered in May of 22 has some constraints on it. They have some scheduling issues with it. And the primary one coming up is March 1 next year. Plans have to be submitted. So that's my purpose of meeting with you today, is we gotta get this project rolling if you guys want to. If you wanna go forward with the funding and go forward with the project, we'll have to get this design started really soon so we can have all the field work done before the ground is covered in snow. And the next deadline is December 31 of 24, all the construction contracts have to be in place. So in other words, we gotta have it all bid and all the contractual work has to be approved by then. And then the final deadline is the end of 2026. All the DA and R ARPA funding has to be used up. So the engineering the engineering agreement, you guys should have that. That's for the engineering to do this phase 4 project. It's a total of $850,000 and change, which is 11.8% of the construction, which is actually kind of low. And I mean, I think it's appropriate cost. And again, this is for those, the sanitary sewer there on Donlin, and abandoning the wells, the water storage improvements, replacing all the rest of your asbestos cement pipe. And then there's some looping, that loop on the south end of town. I can show you that here. There's a water main that runs down on 3rd Avenue to this point right here. And we pick that up and keep going and loop it around to the water main that's on this highway. That's included along with, oh, that's not shown on here, but there's a little water main on 2nd Street too that we'd run out there. Any questions or concerns? Anything I missed, Terry? It's kind of a project here we've been looking at for a long time. This would be the last leg of all the improvements, so we've got a good funding package, just waiting for the last part of it to come in.
As soon as it does come in, is that when we need to get the ball rolling with regard to getting?
Well, my opinion is we don't have that much time. We would like to, if you guys are serious with this project, we'd like approval to begin the design and go ahead with it. And then if, you know, when the funding package comes in, because you have the funding that you can pay for engineering now. And if the funding package is not sufficient, you don't want to go forward with the project, then you're only out the design cost of it, and then at least you have the project design for whenever you do want to do the project.
But to reiterate what you just said, we do have the money in place to pay for the funding of the cost of that.
Yeah, it's probably not in place, Shayla. It's probably something you have a process to get it approved. And
it's there, we just have to say go.
Okay,
I would just like to be more familiar with the project before anything gets approved, just for new council member, of what is all listed apart, because I know that there's some parts of it, previous council talked about omitting from phase 4, and whether that's just a utilities meeting or I know I would like to get just a little more familiar with it, of what's all involved. I know the basic gist of the project, but
like, do you want me to show you kind of like a block by block where we're going with it, or what do you?
Estimated project cost,
That was on there.
I might have forgot, I got 7.2 million.
okay, and then,
Sorry about that.
no, that's fine, and then, over by the school, I know has been talked about quite a bit, so that originally got omitted from phase 3. And then that east and west section.
So, I was gonna get into this here depending on how this discussion went. There's some different options that we had talked about in the past.
Because I know that is a very expensive section of that
Yeah, this is basically the whole sanitary sewer project, which is over $1 million worth.
Yep, cause we talked I wanna say I talked with Terry that, for any expansion that were to happen, they could take that down a half a block farther south for the depth, where the depth is of that sanitary sewer, just that next intersection south.
Yeah.
And that would alleviate a lot of the cost.
This was
Then-
an option too.
Cause we gotta get the feasibility of those lots for on-hand development anyway. The only reason I know that is cause I'm the representative for on-hand, the city representative for on-hand, cause we don't know where the water table is on that, and that's on my to-do list, is to go out and get some test holes to figure out where the water table is, to even know what type of structures can go out there in those lots, or how far to the north they can go. So for anything city-related, I don't know how much we actually commit to that area for anything on phase 4. I don't know anybody else's opinion.
I think it's pretty hard to justify spending $1 million to bring sewer to a bunch of lots that we aren't real confident you can even build a house on.
Right, that's why I have uneasiness with confirming anything in that general area until we know what's gonna happen.
What do? Apply for the funding for that, and then can you cut it out if you,
No, you're not gonna change the funding now.
so it's already in there for that?
It's either
No.
you take it or you don't.
No, is what I was wondering is, if all that stuff was in that design and stuff, you know, in the package that you got set up right here, and then you decided it was too much money, could you cut that out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can, so if you accept the funding, and then let's say you do this option 2 where you only use, half of the cost of it, then that, you just don't use that money and you're not penalized for that, it's, your costs go down by that much. So that's fine.
A percentage on the amount of money that you spend towards the project, or is it, the grant versus our money, is it a percentage?
Yeah, there's some kind of percentage. I don't have-
That's
I
why I
don't have
wonder
that.
how much they know what to deduct then.
Yeah, I don't know those numbers offhand, but
What is the cost to have you start your design?
the whole package is that
850.
850,000.
Yeah,
You said we already had funding,
To start the design process.
yes.
and that's what we're talking about, is that chunk?
Well,
No,
the DANR funding that was offered in May 22 was, I don't know the numbers offhand, but it was roughly 5 million or 6 million. That's the funding package that you have right now.
And we're waiting on the okay from what funding?
Rural development.
We can use both of those, it's not one or the other? It's both?
One of
those?
them's a loan, isn't it?
Right now, what we're looking for rural development is some grant money to offset the loan that we have from DANR. So we've got a really great grant package from DANR, just not great enough. So if we are going to rural development, hoping to get a little bit more grant money to bring those surcharges down, so we don't have to get quite as much loan.
Doesn't their thing run out like in October and then starts over again, or,
Well, they
like they're getting to the end of their,
fiscal year,
That's one thing we've heard is that rural development, their money might be getting used up now, and so we don't know what they're gonna offer.
and it's kind of hard to want to approve something if we don't have the solid numbers of what we're looking at for the project. And
The project cost is $7.2 million.
but for the money that we'll receive,
Oh,
grant.
yeah, the funding.
just
Yep.
to jump out there and say, yeah, we'll go for it, and then the city has to go find $4 million.
Well, what Camden's saying
Yep.
is if we do this design phase, now we're ready to go to bid, so we don't lose our DANR money, cause we're in danger of losing that. So if we get the design done, and depending on our rural development, if we don't get enough money, then we still got the design done, it's paid for, for whenever we can go forward.
So that's the
And
big
if you
question
Paid for
is,
with a loan though.
But with granting,
with-
though, it'd be percentage wise.
So then, in the future, if we would decide to then do the project, do we have two sets of loans then? We'd have to redo.
Probably.
You'd
probably
have to
there would
start
be-
all over.
I guess the big question is like the design phase is not
Yeah.
$800,000. So what,
That's
with
what I
the
was
design phase? I mean, rough, like, are we talking 10,000?
Do they have that from, that engineering?
No, I got it right here. I gave them the front page and I have it, I just stated that the whole packet is.
I mean, cause I think we're okay. I mean, we got the funding.
We
for
got to have
design
the funding for
phase,
the.
But I just wanna clarify.
Yeah,
What we're going ahead with, because if it says we're okaying phase 4 with no admittance,
no,
we're gonna get crucified, because we're already getting comments said to us, especially about the school section.
yeah. But we, to reiterate, if I'm understanding, to the design phase, we have that covered financially now.
And where did that money come from? A grant?
DNR, okay,
Grants and the loans that we already got, percentage wise, we would take the full same percentage, which is, I don't remember, like 65%, maybe or something like that was right. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Right.
Oh.
That I'm seeing just a little, I'm seeing like 2.4, or 240,000, excuse me, ish. So we have the funding available, and the design phase would be roughly 240,000, so it'd be like a quarter of the total engineering for the project, and funding is set for that.
And it would be at whatever percentage, I think it was around 65% grant, whatever our percentage is with DNR right now, that's what we're covering.
Yeah, so then we have a good grant amount for that. So that, I'm good with that, getting that process started, because we can always use that design. I mean, it doesn't really expire, other than price, I mean,
And
of
we
going to
wouldn't
bid.
incur any of those other costs on you, like bidding and construction costs until it was appropriate to do so.
Yeah, because I think everybody's in agreement that at some point, phase 4 has to happen, because everything else has been done in town, but at least get the design started so we can, at least the new members can get acquainted, especially with the problematic section that keeps getting brought up, which is over by the school, and then go over them options, I guess, of what was submitted. So I make a motion that we
Okay.
go to design phase, and I'm approving going on with the design phase so far.
okay.
Does that
Motion,
satisfy everything that you were wanting?
Do you, Shayla, do you think you need a new agreement then, or can we proceed with that agreement, cause it's just a package deal, you know?
This is the whole thing?
Yeah.
So you wanna go forward just with the design portion of the engineering agreement? This is-
Until I can go over the agreement, we can all go over it about what's all involved with phase 4.
Which we really won't know until we have our fund.
But if we do the design phase now, that it gets us a little bit farther along until the answer for funding might come in.
But we really can't vote on that until there's something new drawn up then?
We could do a contingent, a new engineering agreement for just the design phase.
Okay, so can we table my previous motion?
We can do a lack of,
Lack
lack of
of
a
a
second?
Okay, so then I would like to make a secondary motion that we go through with the design phase contingent on it is design only from SPN.
Okay,
I'll second that.
motion on second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose the same. Motion carries. Thank you, Camden. Okay,
For some reason, we don't do the rest of it because if things don't come in right, we still need to get them tanks done and then wells capped.
there's some things that
One
just
way.
have to.
yes,
Yeah.
that has to be done,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
kind of overdue, actually.
okay.
Them have been shot for quite a while and we need to.
We tried to
get
do
it
that
closed up.
in phase 3, but we ran short of funding, so.
And I think we're good with a large portion of phase 4. We just want some clarification for the public, because they're just asking a lot of questions, because they're just over surcharges and just as long as we thoroughly research it, I guess, I think everything would be okay with it.
In which we appreciate those, you know, those concerns or their questions or
Absolutely.
comments and stuff, so, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Sheila, you can, we'll just give this to Terry.
Give it to Terry,
Yep, it's got stuff for him.
and then you'll just send me two agreements.
Yep.
To sign. Okay.
Now, was that agreement, is that what was on page 9?
Yes,
Okay,
so we'll get a revised agreement for just the design.
okay, so as far as, that item, we're gonna be taken care of, right?
Yep.
Okay, Ron, state
Thanks,
auction,
Camden.
or, yeah, thank you, Camden.
Thank you.
Well, for you guys' information, South Dakota State has surplus vehicles. Gosh, could be anything. Could be tractors, trucks, books. I mean, it's just random. Anyway, I have not been getting any emails. And Terry mentioned here a couple weeks ago that there's an auction out there, like in Aberdeen, one in Fort Pierre, kind of around the state. And I was wondering if you guys would give me permission to bid on possibly a truck or pickup or 2 trucks.
And trucks you're talking about,
I'd like to get a tandem. And I'd also like an oil truck. I've been trying to get an oil truck for years, and I keep getting bid out. The one time I would have got the truck, that county forgot to surplus it, so they had to stop the auction and redo it. I owned it for $1,500. And in the process, I don't know if they thought somebody else did it or whatever. It doesn't make a difference. It happened. Anyway, I bid on it and I was outbid by a shot. This is an actual auction now because it's went past that phase where cities and counties and townships can buy off of them. It's actually at an auction. A regular, anybody can be there. There is an oil, one oil truck with the distributor on it.
What price
truck-
points are you looking for?
I got 25,000 in machinery. I honestly don't know what to ask. I mean, I would sure like to be able to at least bid up to 15 on the oil truck. So, yeah. There were some dump trucks that I looked at that have issues. I obviously don't want that. One that's got some turbo issues and rust issues. No, that one can go somewhere else. But the oil truck really, I really would like to get that up if we could. My truck's a 72 International with a 1981 distributor. We haven't drove the truck. We're having brake issues. Last year, we never drove it, and I should surplus it, but if we get in a pinch, we can use it, we just don't want to.
What are you saying, Ron? It needs to be put out to pasture?
Oh, it should have been a long time ago. Yep, I got a Packer that's the same way, but, you know,
okay.
but.
Okay.
I don't know, like I say, I don't know what the dollar amount you guys are comfortable with. I mean, I'm obviously not gonna buy something they turn right around and have to fix. I mean, that's not what I wanna do.
Right.
Oil trucks are not fun to work on because they won't drip oil until you're underneath them. They're miserable, so. But I was doing a little snooping and found some issues with some of the tandems. And never went any further, I just didn't have time. We finally got a rainy day and I just didn't have enough time in the rainy day to do the research. But,
Okay,
I guess if something's available on auction, it's kind of the time to do or die instead of having to be in a pinch and have to buy for way more expensive later.
right now, in the goodness of the Han County, they're letting me use their truck and their tank. I usually always have them set aside so I can use it because they have a couple of them. But this year I had to wait for the truck to be available, so.
So Ron, if I understand, you're just kind of looking for permission, or are you looking for a limit or
I'm
a
looking
dollar
for
amount?
permission. If you're comfortable with the dollar amount, I'm fine with that. I just gotta get permission before I can get a dollar amount, you know what I mean?
You have $25,000 in your budget to spend on it?
Yeah. Last year I had, 25 also, and I didn't buy any. I think I only paid, I got something, but it wasn't by much, but there was nothing really out there. I mean, I don't want junk.
Right.
Not that I need it to be new, it's just,
So if $25,000 is in his budget, couldn't he go up to that?
I'm comfortable with that.
If that's what it's worth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
you
you
pay
know that's what
$25,000
it's
for a
worth.
$15,000 oil truck, but yeah.
right.
I guess I'd make the motion to let Ron, bid to his discretion up to his $25,000 limit in his budget.
Or maybe 2 items, I mean, in that case, it could be. that-
For
Could be
anything
up
that,
to 2, yeah.
yeah.
Yes, to Ron's discretion
Okay,
within his budget.
I'll second it.
discussion? You know, with regard to that discussion, you had money in the budget last year that you didn't use for the purpose you're using this
Right,
year and
right.
stuff, so, you know, with that, so. Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
I may wanna correct me on it. Did I buy that sweeper last year? Or was that the year before? If that was 2 years ago, we're still good, but
Yeah, well,
I just popped in my mind, I might have got the sweeper, but I believe it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So, but anyway, just so
thank
you
you
know.
for that, yeah, well.
Shayla, do you have the packets that I gave you?
Yeah,
It's that way.
well, I put them in their packets.
Okay,
I guess I just asked if he had one. I don't know if he had an extra one. And I'd take an extra one as well. Cause you want me to have extra?
I think that was it, I gave.
Or did
I
you
gave
have
one
one?
to Suzanne.
Yeah,
He's got it.
I got it.
Okay.
okay. Next thing on the agenda, and I'll turn it over to Patrick with regard to law enforcement.
Because I am the head of the Public Safety Committee, people have been contacting me almost regularly since taking over city council position, and I've been kind of saying that, you know, we're giving time to the police department, and they have turned things around and they're going in a good direction. But the requests haven't stopped, so I figured, I asked the committee and they agreed that, well, even though we feel like Chief Huss is doing a good job, that we need to at least get the information on what it would be like for an integrated countywide law enforcement, just so there's no rumors in the city of what's actually possible. So I requested the sheriff to put together a proposition of what would happen if we were to ask him to take over law enforcement. And I don't know if the council wants to go through it line item or just totals. If anybody has an opinion, but, he gave a couple different options. He suggested of doing it with a 6% incentive, so that is always gonna be an incentive for all of the officers to make the arrangement work, because if it doesn't work and we wanna pull back, everybody loses a 6%, that 6% incentive. So with that incentive, the first year cost, because it's going to be, the year that they have to buy some extra inventory, like laptops and stuff, the first year cost is $340,315. Then,
That would be the city's cost.
yep, that would be the city's cost.
Oh, let me start. What, with regard to the two entities, with regard to coming together, what are the items as far as those costs? I mean, not that you have to go line by line, but what don't the two have that we need to have moving forward? Is that what we're talking about?
It'd be 3 laptops that are in the vehicles.
Okay.
That I don't specifically know, but I don't think the city police have those laptops in the vehicles.
Okay.
I can be wrong. And then it's something called Zerker, which is a program for those laptops, decals for the patrol cars to change them over, and then uniforms. And then I guess I didn't do the math if these 24/7 testing supplies for $500 is in that total or not, but. And then every year after, or at least until we renegotiate with the cost of living increase, every year after that'd be $325,815. And then I asked Chief Huss to give me his proposed, not approved, budget for next year. Because he wants to get another vehicle, it would be, next year's budget would be $468,857. And then every year after that, he is, as of right now, he's requesting a $417,000 budget. So
But
that
again,
is
that's a budget he's gonna request that hasn't been,
correct. And
Is
this,
that with or without the car?
with the one he's requesting for next year is $468,857. With, and that's with the machinery and equipment expense of $55,900. Did I say the 2025 budget for the police?
417.
Yep. And we have all of the line by line on both departments. And then, but this is also including the sheriff's department proposal is including part of that money is $10,000 a year to keep vehicles up. So if this was entertained, we would be getting like in kind inventory and vehicles back. If we decided that we did not think the sheriff's office was performing the job that we want, we can elect to not renew their contract, and we would get our stuff back. So then we would just have to restaff. But they would also lose them additional personnel spots. So it would be a pretty seamless transition back as long as we set it up that proper way in a contract. But I'm just putting the information out there so the people that asked me to do so.
So is this gonna require a public meeting that was promised to the public a few years ago when we had that public meeting?
We can do another public meeting if we see fit. It is not required from what I read. I can dig in. This is just the first reading. We can elect to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did not see anything of where we can't change over to the sheriff's department just with our vote.
I just know that there was a meeting that was supposed to happen after that first public meeting, which never did. And in fairness to the public, I think these things should be discussed.
I think she's,
And I'm more than willing to, I would like a strong public representation of what they want still. Because this is not a year and a half ago, whenever that meeting was. We are living in a different time. So it would be nice to know where we stand again. But at that meeting, I don't know if we were ever actually given for sure figures instead of just it being, well, it might be this, might be that.
And we could probably give you the dates, if I can find them, of the meetings and the comments before. Was you
Yep.
at that meeting?
I was at the
before?
meeting,
Okay.
and that's why I do know people are still requesting, because that meeting, the follow-up to actually discuss this never did happen, to my knowledge.
It never did. There was never a follow-up meeting.
Okay, so that is a big thing that people have been saying to me is, this never happened, I would like it brought up again. So that's why we accumulated this information. And I did have some more information just to show that it's not really out of left field. So the counties in South Dakota, of 66 counties, I can't remember which one's which. It looks like there's 36 counties with supplemental law enforcement in their county. And the population of counties that have supplemental law enforcement, such as City PD, the average population is 21,772. And then the average population of counties that go with sheriff-only law enforcement, the average is 3,628. And Han County is 3,095, according to the census I went off of and accumulated all this information on. So, that's the information I accumulated and wanted the public to know that we can discuss, and I'm open to council discussion about it now, or just set a date so everybody can talk about it. Or if there's public input tonight,
I would like to say something.
I guess, sorry, Tom, I guess that's you.
No, please,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah, get the
please,
microphone.
absolutely. My
There-
question can wait.
They're exactly right, because as everyone knows, I put together a petition to have countywide law enforcement, because I felt that it would save us some money and would be more beneficial, because you'd know who to call, you'd know, what to do, who to visit with, but anyway, the city council at that time put together a meeting at the community center. And in my opinion, they planted a lot of people in the audience to talk negative about a combined law enforcement. They never did have the figures that you have to show whether it would be profitable or not, or would not be feasible for us. They promised another meeting where they would look this stuff over, and that never happened. So I truly believe that the people in Miller want to see us move forward with a countywide law enforcement.
And I don't want to cut you off, but you reminded me of something that come from that meeting. These figures are for the current patrolling that we are getting now. That is, these numbers are for 24/7 coverage, because I know that's been a big statement.
Right.
This would be the exact same law enforcement that we have now as far as 24/7.
The countywide,
Yes, the countywide proposal is for 24/7.
correct. And that,
So you're saying leaving one guy at Miller all the time?
Yes, yep. It
And-
wouldn't
and
be
I know
on
that
call.
was one of the
Otherwise, that'd be
concerns.
like, how come Miller people gotta pay more than St. Lawrence or Reids or?
Right, yep. The city of Miller is paying for extra law enforcement, and that is what that proposal is. Shane wanted me to reiterate that,
no, that's fine.
and
I just, I'm glad that you put together something, and I think we need to move forward and look at it. Whether whether the citizens of Miller really want it, I can't really speak for all of them, but I want it looked at. So I certainly appreciate you doing all that work.
With regard to, I think one of the things you look at when you change with regard to that, the safeguard of our city employees. I mean, that's pretty much, it's not really, how much of a difference with regard to not being in a situation like that, with regard to hours, with regard to shifts, with regard to things of that sort? I mean, what,
this is, I don't know if this is what you're asking, but, that is to the plan that he gave me, that he laid out for me, and he said he would be more than willing to come to any meeting and explain his proposition, but he wanted to say that that would be adding 3 police officers to the sheriff's office as it sits now.
How many do they have now?
They have 2 full-timers, multiple part-timers that they can call, and then they have a dispatcher / deputy that mainly does dispatch, but she also does deputy work as well. So that is the one thing, is we have 4 officers and they would be adding 3, so it is not a complete no negative out of this proposition. So I want to make that clear of what's happening. One way or another, I just want everybody that wants its day in court can be satisfied that it's getting its day in court and go from there.
Okay.
And put it to bed of what everybody in the city wants.
So, and again, not to get ahead of ourselves, but with regard to, responsibilities as far as shifts and things of that sort, would that,
The only thing we would do is write a check.
we don't have to write a check?
It would
Okay.
be the sheriff's office, and I believe his plan would be to have a chief deputy, which would act much like a chief of police, where he still has his roles, but then he would, in the emergency world, we have a command structure and then we branch out. So he is using that type of structure where he would have someone that would be the supervisor of town.
Okay,
And then it would go from there as far as subordinates, but that would be partnership with him. So there'd be a couple officers, and I don't want to speak for Shane, but he had mentioned that this would look a lot like he would have a chief deputy for Miller, that is. And then they have all the law enforcement resources in town under one roof to work together, instead of one department working on one thing and the other department working on another thing. And they might be duplicating man hours on the same thing instead of they could have just been working together on it.
okay. I think the one thing that I
But,
do.
yeah, go ahead.
Go-
I just
no.
want, before we go too much, that is the extent of what Shane had told me about the proposition. So anything I speak from now would just be opinion.
Yeah.
So if we have any more questions or deeper questions, I would ask that Shane come and answer those questions. Cause I want to be a neutral party on the situation.
You know, just, 2 points that I would like, I like the idea, the fact that if it doesn't work, we still have our equipment, they have their equipment. I like that idea where we're not totally dissolving with regard to the equipment that we have. I like that idea. But along with, city council approval, we're gonna have to have the commissioner's approval too with regard to moving ahead forward with this.
It would be nice to do an updated talk with them. I
Yeah.
know that we should talk to them, yes.
Okay, right.
I know that he said he's within his right to give the proposition that they can't turn him down,
Okay,
but you know,
It's my understanding that the, commissioners cannot just automatically, the city would have to go and ask them to join forces. That, they couldn't just say, okay, we're having countywide law enforcement, just like you couldn't say, we're gonna have, you have to work together,
Yeah.
coordinate it, so that.
okay.
I think they have to have a bigger office. Yeah, 3 more guys,
Yeah.
either one of them.
Well, yeah, okay, well, without it, not having it, I think the, yeah, okay,
But-
I appreciate the
So-
input, and I do think it's important, you know, the one thing I have to, you know, appreciate you, Ron, because I knew some, the past administration, gave some promises for individuals about their, road being chip sealed, and this one appreciates following through with that commitment. And I also, with regard to if, you know, you give a commitment to the people with regard to, you know, following through, or at least kind of come back with either a thumbs up or down moving forward, I think, you know, we owe that, you know, too as well.
I think it's only fair, since we made that commitment and never followed through with it, that there should be that, at least that discussion in a public setting.
I would agree.
do we, if you want to do it, I feel as though we need to select a special date to publicize that date to discuss anything further.
You gotta have that date in the paper for.
Yeah, but I also think that you each of the entities, you want to feel comfortable with regard to coming forward with regard to the information needed too, so.
You might wanna touch base with the commissioners first.
Yep, and I can do that. And I did ask the question, is like, do we have to talk to the commissioners? And Shane says I have authority, but we can clarify
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
that just directly to them instead of going through
We're
someone.
meeting today.
Yes, this afternoon.
Would be nice to have
Yep.
Yeah.
Do they have one?
one of them.
Do they?
And maybe you could do a special meeting with the county commissioners.
That might be what you wanna do.
Patrick, Jim Jones and Greg Palmer were the two reps from the council commissioners that were
Okay.
chosen.
Okay.
So they were the ones that met with the committee here, just FYI.
Okay.
So I know that those are two contact people that were familiar with Shane's proposal before, so that,
Because did he ever publicize a proposal from before?
no, because the council wouldn't look at it.
Okay. So there was a proposal drawn up
He
and
had the proposal all drawn up and everything, but
the
that,
city never wanted it. Okay. Who was on the committee before? Was anybody on the committee before
You guys are all new.
Yeah, we're all new.
from the, okay. I didn't know who else was, if anybody was sitting, if Mike from the public safety. So apparently the commissioners were okay with it at one point. Okay. All right.
That should be helpful.
Okay. So we'll just, we'll let you gather additional information and then with regard to, contacting commissioners or those two individuals, so.
Because this will probably be, the sooner you could have the meeting, probably the better, because this is gonna be a long, drawn-out process. I don't think it's nothing you can vote on until, like, there's an official document of exactly, this is kind of a draft. So, I think it's gonna take a while.
Agreements written up and reviewed by both attorneys.
Yeah,
Right.
It's gonna take a lot of time.
Yep.
yep.
So,
So I don't know if you wanna have a special meeting, or you wanna wait for next month's meeting.
I can
I mean, I
have,
don't know if there's
I
any.
think I can, let's just re-put it on the,
18th, September 18th.
yep, so we'll re-put it on next meeting's agenda that we'll retouch. If I have new information to give, I will. I feel as though that I can probably touch base with the commissioners, and if they had already talked about it once, then anything that was approved before still stands.
They may have a new member or two since then too.
There was never anything official drawn up on that.
And technically, the way
It
it
was all
really
just
sits,
drafts.
whatever we decide, we can say we don't want to pay for anything extra, and the sheriff has to take over enforcing the city as it is, the way he sees fit, though. So so they have to patrol a city no matter what. We're just asking for extra law enforcement.
We're already paying for it.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, look forward to the 18th with regard
Yep,
to
so-
anything new, all right?
And at that time, you may decide on a special meeting possibly.
Right,
If that's
and,
what commissioners.
yep, just, I feel as though the biggest answer we need to know is it even an option from the county's sake, that they're all good with it? And then we would set a public meeting at next meeting's deal to get the public's input. Because we still have two sides to the deal. We don't have.
Because there was a lot of argument before about,
You're gonna have arguments either way.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
no matter
before
what
it
you
was
do.
like, when we were trying to hire a chief of police, there were arguments that 6 people shouldn't decide if you dissolve your city law, it should come to a vote. I don't know where all of that stands, I'm just saying that was at a meeting, and we can look those up if you wanna listen to those. It just gives you a little bit of input on what's happened in the past.
And I don't want to cloud it too much with a bunch of what was said. And I don't know, I do not dislike the idea of having a city vote on the matter, because that is a true representation of what the city wants.
Right.
But we can give the information of what is actually allowed and what's not allowed, of what's rights or anything like that.
And I think terms that are used are important, you know, with regard to planning an idea or a concept. I don't like the term dissolved with regard to law enforcement. We're not dissolving law enforcement. That's not our intentions, and surely isn't going to be a dissolve if, you know, if we move forward with it and continue to have it, or move forward with it and then, you know, kind of go back on an agreement. Law enforcement's not gonna be dissolved. We're gonna have law enforcement.
Well, we'll have law enforcement,
Yeah.
but you would basically be dissolving one or the
Yeah.
other.
It'll be
Yeah.
merged.
It merged. I like
Yep.
the word merge rather than dissolved.
We're already paying for it, so you wouldn't have to have a merger.
Yeah.
People really
Subcontracting.
wanna save money.
Well, and I think one thing that you have to think about too is right now, the chief of police is responsible to you. But if there's no chief of police, like Shane's not responsible to anybody. He's not responsible to the commissioners. He's his own entity.
He's elected.
Yep, he's
He's
an
an
elected.
elected official.
But we still hold the power of the contract with the county sheriff.
Right, and I think, and.
That is our
that's-
power.
But that's something that,
Mhm.
that you have to consider too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not saying yes or no to either one, because like you said, I think we need more facts.
Yep.
And, I was on the opposite end of most of the council when they did not wanna talk about it anymore, but, because I felt like it might be a good move forward. But it is something to consider, that, you know, you have, and you're right, you will have the power with the contract. So that does give you some power. But that's just a consideration. So, there's lots of things to consider.
A lot of things to consider, because the chief of police that we have now has worked hard to do the job that should be done. So, I don't wanna take anything away from him.
And
Because he has,
and we've got 3 officers that are working, you know, hand in hand with regard to making sure the job is getting done, you know, with regard to that. And I agree with you.
yes,
Yes.
so, we don't wanna take anything away from them.
No.
But I still believe countywide is a merger of the law enforcement is still the better thing for us, but that's my opinion.
And I think the public meeting is the best way
Yes.
to handle it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just because it was promised, it never happened.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so we look forward to that. Okay? Anything else on it? Okay, item 5, the South Dakota Municipal League Conference on October 3rd to the 6th in Rapid City. And that's on that's starting on a Tuesday, right there?
Yeah, I think you have a conference
Yeah.
on the board.
Yeah.
I looked at the conference.
Is that gonna be during a meeting?
Huh?
Is that gonna be during one of our meetings?
No, our meeting's Monday night,
It would be the next
Oh.
day.
so it's the next day in Rapid.
Okay.
I wish they would shift this by a week, because then I have.
Oh, sure.
Our meeting Monday night, and you have to scramble trying to get everything
Yeah.
done. before you get done.
I-
What we would like though is, we'd love to have the council attend this, at least partial or whole.
I was looking at it and I think it would be good. I think I'd like to go.
Plus they have stuff for new council too on their meetings and stuff.
Well, if I can stay in the room with her, I'll go.
Separate rooms.
Well,
Hey, we're gonna save
Yeah.
city money.
yeah. If
There you go.
Double up. Yeah.
I like their agenda. I mean, they do have some,
I was looking at it, and it's also in the magazine you got today.
Yes,
There's a lot of
yes,
good stuff in there. I
yes.
Yeah.
was looking through that for you.
and I also received an email on that as well, so, there are some good things.
I looked at the beans today. They aren't gonna go till the 10th, so we're good.
Okay,
So we
Right.
got two.
That's my
so
official
2,
opinion.
so,
I would like to attend, but I just can't do it this year. I had something else in there.
probably in the same boat.
It's a very, very bad time for conferences.
I'll have to check my schedule at
Okay.
work.
And then
Sure,
I'm sure-
retired bean farmer.
Well, getting two is.
There's a lot of grain bins that need wired still.
We've had in a long time.
Wasn't it last year in Pierre?
Last year was in Watertown.
What did we go to in Pierre? Some municipality,
There's,
cause you and I and
yeah,
Mike,
Jim went to
We went to
Watertown.
something else. It was the
What was it?
first, it was like for the,
New
a new
elected.
council member.
Spearfish,
It was new council member training in Pier.
is that it?
elected officials, there's
Yeah.
finance, I mean, there's a lot of.
Lot of
these.
them.
Most of them are.
I know the one that I really was interested in is, they've got a thing on crisis communication.
That's a
And-
big part of this.
Yeah, so I thought that would really be a good one.
That-
Hope we never have to use
And
it.
you guys can do the whole,
Yeah,
and if you wanna golf, you do that on your own.
I'm not a golfer.
No.
I saw it at the Eagle.
I have, but I won't.
So,
Right.
Wednesday to Friday then.
Yeah, yeah, we won't golf.
When does it start on Wednesday?
Starts Wednesday morning pretty early.
Yeah.
So you'll need to stay.
Should have to go out Tuesday.
Tuesday
evening.
night,
Well, I think the registration is 9.
Registration.
yeah. Registration table's open at 8.
You're gonna
No.
still be oiling with your new truck. Think positive, Ron.
Right, it's snowing, but-
I am oiled on the 12th of November.
It better not be snowing the first week of October.
I hope you
12th
get
of
through it.
November, it was
Yeah.
75 degrees.
You have to- Not very many people wanna see that.
No. And let me, not that I'm gonna, you know, I'll be at the, maybe I can work something out too with not missing the meet, but maybe still being able to attend some of it and stuff, so.
You'd be part way there, cause isn't it in Chamberlain here on Wednesday?
Chamberlain, yes, it's, yeah,
Is that in the morning? We did maybe.
it is 2:00.
Oh, you're just down the road.
I can run home afterwards.
This is in the right direction.
Keep the bus rolling.
Yeah, there you go.
Pack 2 satchels when you leave home, because you never know.
Now practices in the Black Hills.
Yeah,
There you go.
There you go.
Hill running at, before and after.
I've done it before.
Build their lungs up.
Yeah, okay, all right, so good, it's 2 so far, all right. Anything else on that? Okay, entertain a motion then to approve the bills.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries. Adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Shayla?
Thank all of you.
8:19, thank you.
Oh,
We have to have our times the synced.
oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
1920.
And I will have a
8:21.
couple articles
Yep.
with regard to the last cross-country meets. I have one completed and I'll,
Noon tomorrow.
noon?
Noon.
Oh, gosh, you're putting me on the, I gave it to the other, was it?
Yes.
I know, I
That
told
is
you.
for counties that have no additional
I'll-
law
Tell her
enforcement.
you
That is
drop it
sheriff
off
only.
over Fort Pierre, it'll be mountain time.
So that's-
There you go, yeah, okay.
No, there's no,
No, our
Additional law
deadline is noon
enforcement
on
in
Wednesday
those counties.
because we have to get it typed up, but I'm always